Good morning, namaste. My name is Delvis with Urban Bliss Yoga. And today we're going to clinic a few wrist preps for our arm balances. So let's just start off, hands shoulder width apart, fingers wide. So our wrists are such sensitive joints, it's important to warm them up before placing lots of body weight on them. So some great warm-ups for the wrists before we get into our arm balances is to point the fingers out, shoulder width apart, fingers wide. Fingers are pointed towards the outside of the mat. And we're going to lock out the arms here, press through the shoulders. Take a nice lengthening inhale. And on the exhale, we're just going to lean over towards the right shoulder, feeling the flexion in the right wrist. Inhale back to center. And exhale, lean over towards the left shoulder, making sure that the heel of the wrist does not come off the mat. This is working into the flexion of the wrist, warming the wrists up, bringing heat and circulation to the wrist, and do this at your own pace. If you want to take it a little further, we can bring the wrist a little bit closer. Really make sure that we're locking out the arms, fingers are wide. And just gently leaning side to side, connecting the movement with your breath. And if you like, you can also make circles with the shoulder girdle around the wrist joints. So we want to get into the full rotation of our wrist. So really feel all the corners and crevices of the wrist. And reverse the rotation. And do this for about 30 seconds. And if you want to take it another step further, we can bring the knees together right by the wrist and invert the fingers towards the back of the mat. And gently release the glutes onto the heels. So now we have the glutes connected to the heels, fingers pointed towards the back of the mat, and arms are locked out, fingers wide. We want to make sure that the heel of the wrist does not come up like this. We want to keep them down. Keep the wrist connected to the ground and then lean back a little bit and breathe. Getting a nice deep carpal stretch. And once you hold this for 20 to 30 seconds, we can gently come forward and release one wrist at a time. Come back onto the heels and just shake out the wrist side by side. Get some circulation into the wrist. Feel that twisting movement. Notice how I'm not moving my arms around. It's just all coming from the wrist. And now to get into some extension of the wrist, we can bring the backs of the hands down to the ground with the fingers facing each other. Fingers wide. And we can open up the knees a little bit right here and breathe. We can even make fists with the wrist. And if you like, you can lower the chest down all the way, bringing the elbows out by the sides. You can make circles or fists with the wrist here. You can come back up, really pressing down into the mat. And exhale, come back down. Inhale, press up, really feel the pressure of the backs of the wrist into the ground. And gently lower the chest, bring out the elbows. And gently inhale back up. And release one at a time. Bring the knees together, sit back onto the heels, and shake out the wrist. We can even grab the wrist with one arm, pull the wrist down a little bit, feel that nice space being created, and make circles with the wrist. And breathe. Opening up the joint capsule, reverse the rotation, and do that on the other side. Pull the wrist down and feel that nice rotation of the wrist. This will make sure that we don't hurt ourselves, since the wrists are such sensitive joints. It'll make sure that our wrists are warmed up and ready to get lots of body weight on them for our practice. Well, thank you for joining us. Namaste.